What trait do you most resent your parents for passing on to you? My mother has a square face. My father has a big head. Of course I couldn't get one or the other, so now I'm walking around with this giant ass square head. I was arguing with my mom and realized I was talking just like my dad. Then when I was arguing with my dad I realized I was talking just like my mom. It's a really horrifying realization. Male pattern baldness with hair loss starting at 20 years old. Fuck my genes. Combine really sweaty hands with being more than averagely social. Shaking hands is naturally the first thing I do when I meet someone new, so they usually get the impression that I peed on my hands or I'm one very sweaty bastard. It's hard because personal relationships involve a lot of touching and you can't build them if they assume you're sweaty everywhere. Also sweaty hands are disgustingly soft, so it's just a weird feeling to other people. Squishy, warm, and wet. The devil's triad when it comes to things not vaginas. All of my grandparents and their parents had severe dementia as they grew old. Moles. Moles everywhere. Holy moly. We always do more than we should, not because we're overachievers, but because we're insecure. Body hair. God, it's everywhere. You know that old dilemma, I look even hairier because I'm very pale, and I'm pale because I'm embarrassed of my hairiness. Also, short-sightedness. An explosive temper. You'd never guess by speaking to me that I have rage issues. I've worked really hard to not be like my dad. I don't let much get to me and try to live a mostly carefree life. If something sets me off though, it's terrifying to see that person come out. It used to just be when I drank. I slowly see it more and more. It scares me sometimes. Allergies. Could they have kept it to themselves? Also, they made the conscious decision to not pass this trait on to either of my siblings, just me. Thanks mom and dad. Anxiety from my mom, depression from my dad, migraines from my mom, frequent tension headaches from my dad, lack of empathy from my mom, and mild autism from my dad. At least I also inherited my mom's math and my dad's writing abilities, or else I'd be quite the mess of a human being. My dad's unibrow. I'm female. Being instinctively argumentative. Thanks mom. No discipline. I never had any rules growing up. My parents always had some late bill they had to pay. Plans were always up in the air. I had to learn a lot of things from my own experience, whether I was ready for it or not. We all have massive calves and small ears. Really small. Both parents, oily skin, though I'm sure I'll appreciate it when I don't get as many fine lines. My mum, just big legs. Not fat, muscular I guess, and big knees. My so calls them rugby players' legs. L. My dad, my preference to just sit and listen/absorb, which makes me comes across as sullen. Bald head. Hair everywhere else. Life. Those bastards. Chronic depression and anxiety. I resented even more because they were against treatment and I spent more than a decade suffering needlessly. Poor timekeeping, specifically making me feel like this was always okay growing up. They never picked me up on time. We were always at least a little late for appointments or social events and that was fine. I'm now trying really hard to break that habit, but at 29 it's a tough one to shake off. I'm girl. Have wide feet. Shoe shopping sucks. Mom, the crazy. Dad, the insecurity. Both, the ugly. Procrastination. My dad would always complain about how my granddad was a huge procrastinator in his grand plans for modernizing the farm they lived on, etc., which all came to basically nothing. I notice my dad has the same issues with his grand plans for retirement, and now here I am, in work, on Reddit. Being short, haha. My dad can never ask a question directly. I think it's because he's worried the question will provoke a negative response, but his solution of asking around the question until people get irritated isn't any better. I found myself doing the exact same thing with my mom the other day. I have to keep checking that I'm asking what I want to know instead of trying to get the other person to respond in the way I want them to. Example, dad wants to know if mom bought apples. Normally you'd just say, did you get apples? My dad says, were fruits on sale? Were you in the fruit aisle? Did you check the shopping list? Did you unload all the groceries in their proper place? And so on. Since I've also inherited a temper from both parents, the 20 questions always devolves into a fight. Fun times. Neat nuts. Our parents passed it on. Everything has to be neat, clean and in order around the house. Even shirts in the closet are hung by size and color. I cannot, no matter what, not know something. If there's a surprise I've been promised, I have to know what it is. A fact I'm not sure of, I have to look it up, to the point of distraction. I just go straight up crazy otherwise. I thought it was just me until I heard my mum badgering my dad to tell her what his big anniversary surprise was a few years ago, but nope, I definitely picked it up from her. For passing on their tendency to hold a grudge, I'll never forgive them for that. Addictive tendencies and a particular fondness for food, not in the best shape. Edit, being viewing houses all afternoon and came back to a ton of advice and support. Thanks guys. My dad's irrational anger/temper. I hate it. It's very hard to control. What makes it worse is I realize how childish and ridiculous it looks, having grown up dealing with my dad's anger. My feet smelled so bad in my teenage years I must have filled an entire classroom, even if my shoes were on. I found a product online about 15 years ago that actually eliminated it completely. At that point I poured acid on my feet to get them to stop smelling. The product is Zuba from JMK Products. It's almost like a paste you put on before bed for a few days. Completely wipes out the bacteria on your feet that cause it. Requires periodic maintenance, but it completely eliminated foot odor for me and mine was awful. A streak of manipulative narcissism from my mother that when coupled with my mom's alcoholism didn't make for an ideal childhood. Fortunately I have not inherited her alcoholism, but only the manipulative trait. I have to make conscious choice to not lie and be a manipulative piece of shit when interacting with people I like. My long ass nose. I don't resent my parents for the traits I've been passed, but I have a pretty bad case of ichthyosis, essentially really dry skin. During my years of school I would always forget my gym clothes and tend to wear long sleeve shirts and pants year round, because people would always pick on me for it. No lotions I tried worked, so it was always bad, more so during the winter. Since then I've found ammonium lactate lotion helps this, and I've gotten a good handle on it. Definitely wish I knew that when I was in school it wasn't a good feeling being known as a lizard. I have also always had very thin hair, and I'm currently balding at 24. Can't foresee having much hair by 26 to 27, and I'm relatively short. But hey, I was gifted a pretty decent hog, and have found the love of my life who accepts me for me, so I guess things aren't so bad. A lack of real world knowledge. My chronic migraines. My dad has it, and to rub salt in the wound mine are more severe. Back problems. I'm only 20, and if I stand too long my back will start killing me. Gluten intolerant/celiac. Mom has it, my sister has it. I feel like I'm inconveniencing people in order to eat at restaurants that can provide safe food for me to eat. My dad's a thinker, and my mom generally looks at stuff in a negative light. So being a pessimistic thinker on top of all that kind of sucks too. I think it's developed into a wistful cynicism at times, due to my dad's ability to find humor in just about everything. A poor relationship with food. Finish your plate, they said. There are starving children in Africa, they said. Now I eat when I'm supposed to, as opposed to eating for satiation. It dissociated hunger from eating and turned into bad eating habits. Going grey early. Started dyeing my hair now at 28 and wasn't planning on it till 40 plus. Getting a haircut requires some coordinating too now. Horrifically hairy thighs, like a carpet remnant. Anxiety and not being able to grow facial hair. Caring too much about what other people think. Borderline personality disorder, anxiety, depression, and mental illness and addictive tendencies. Thankfully, for today, I have my addictions behind me. My dad is a worrier. To make matters worse, he would warn us that he comes from a family of worriers and told us to expect to worry about everything in the future. Guess what? I worry about everything. Cataclysmic shits. This is my family too. At get-togethers like Thanksgiving, the bathrooms are always full and smell like shit for days. My mom is the only one in family that doesn't get explosive diarrhea all the damn time. Some of our favorite family stories involve trying to deal with explosive poops, shitting in a bush while on a jog, shitting on the side of the road, and it having the force to reach the fence, shitting your pants because you couldn't make it to the bathroom. Misophonia. I'm a super chill person otherwise, but for the longest time I'd get super mad if anyone was eating, drinking, swallowing, breathing audibly, or making any kind of sounds. Pretty much anything short of speaking and sitting still pushed my buttons. With a lot of acknowledgement of my faults, I have slowly been able to cope and even lessen the effect. However, the biggest thing I tell myself is that it is my fault, not the people around me, and I feel calmer. Sadly, my dad won't listen to my advice on the matter and constantly blames those around him. Then when I snap at him for snapping, he plays the guilt trip card. The dude just won't seem to take responsibility.